CM Punk is known for a lot of things, best in the world being one of them. Love him or hate him, he makes an impact and the wrestling world is a lot more interesting with him in it. He finally returned after 10 months away from AEW, all stemming from not just injury issues, but backstage issues with the Elite. You probably know the story of the all-out brawl out. After addressing previous issues about Colt Cabana, more on him later, Punk called out the EVPs of AEW, the Young Bucks, and Kenny Omega, while slamming Adam Hangman Page for going into business for himself. The comments reportedly led to a legitimate fight backstage involving Punk, the Bucks, Kenny Omega, and Ace Steel, with the fallout of it having a massive impact. But Punk's issues with the Elite wasn't the first time he had heat with wrestlers. Here are 7 other instances where he had real-life heat with other wrestlers backstage. Kevin Owens is a name that might surprise you, but Punk had an issue with him during their Ring of Honor days, and it was over a t-shirt? That's right, CM Punk, who was a locker room leader and trainer in the mid-2000s, took issues with Owens' weight and the fact that he wrestled in a t-shirt, even convincing him to wrestle in a singlet instead. When Owens did so and the match went badly, he asked Punk if he was happy, and it caused Punk to openly criticize him in front of others. Although Punk has downplayed the story in recent years, Owens quietly turned out to be the winner in the long run, as he not only continues to wrestle in a t-shirt, but he managed to achieve CM Punk's unfulfilled dream of headlining WrestleMania, and he did it twice. Getting back to Colt Cabana, his issues with CM Punk happen to have a mild connection to Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, and Pac, formerly known as Neville. As you may know, both Punk and Cabana were engaged in a lawsuit against WWE Dr. Chris Amon over comments made on Cabana's podcast in 2014. Apart from the fact that Punk had reportedly promised to cover Cabana's legal fees, but didn't, it was reported that the former best friends had a falling out when Punk found out that Cabana met his old independent wrestler friends, who were now WWE stars, for a pizza. Punk reportedly felt that Cabana shouldn't have been engaging with anyone in WWE due to the lawsuit. Punk was also accused of being responsible for sending Colt Cabana to Ring of Honor after he signed with AEW, although he and Tony Khan have both denied this. If allegedly having a falling out over your friend meeting other friends is bizarre, Hornswoggle has an even more bizarre story. By all accounts, Swoggle was on good terms with Punk throughout his WWE career, but the straw that broke the camel's back was when he lost his phone and asked Punk for a phone number of a mutual friend. Punk had reportedly not kept in touch with Swoggle after he left WWE, and for reasons unknown, he took Swoggle asking for that number as him using their friendship. If you look back at the November 2014 podcast with Cabana, Punk took a swing at Jericho for wanting him on his show for hits and not actually checking in on him. It was a totally different situation as Swoggle's, and perhaps one of the weirdest falling out stories you will hear. There was no falling out between CM Punk and Elijah Burke because they weren't really friends to begin with. But during their early WWE ECW days, they faced off on numerous occasions. In 2014, Punk spoke to Whisk FM and said that Elijah Burke was his least favorite opponent. He said, quote, "My least favorite opponent. Does anyone even remember Elijah Burke?" End quote. Punk then says, "Oh, he was terrible. He is absolutely the worst. Absolutely the worst. Talk about a diva. Man oh man, sorry if you liked him." End quote. Elijah Burke was asked for a response and took the high road by stating that he hadn't actually read about it and only heard about it from social media. He refused to hit back because Punk wasn't there to respond to him, and didn't feel the need to hit back because he had already told Punk everything he thought about him to his face, and indirectly questioned Punk for not doing the same and saying it behind his back. It was admittedly a mature response from Burke. One superstar who Punk berated to his face was Ryback. While some forget, the former Intercontinental Champ was getting over big during CM Punk's historic reign as WWE Champion. However, it became clear in hindsight that he was thrust into the main event scene far too early. It was here when Ryback's reckless style affected Punk, who claimed on Colt Cabana's podcast in 2014 that he got legitimately injured because of him. in what was a rather clumsy mishap on his part. When Punk angrily confronted Ryback and asked him whether he purposely injured him or if he was just dumb as F, Ryback said that he was dumb as... You guys know what he said. Punk even referred to him as the steroid guy, and Ryback had never let it go, stating that Punk damaged his wrestling career. When Punk announced that he had to undergo surgery in June of 2022, Ryback simply tweeted, "Karma rules," with a winking emoji. Safe to say he hasn't gotten over it yet. In what seems to be a rather ironic twist given the Kevin Owens incident we mentioned earlier, The Undertaker, a renowned locker room leader for decades, told CM Punk in 2009 when he was World Heavyweight Champion that he needed to dress better because he was representing the WWE. Punk asked him, "What about John Cena?" And this allegedly got back to management, with some perceiving it as Punk thinking he was bigger and better than Cena. Not too long after, he dropped the World Heavyweight title to The Undertaker, but the dead man insists that there was no beef between them, particularly heading into the WrestleMania 29 match in 2013. The Undertaker said in an interview that he has no issues with Punk without referencing what happened in 2009. He simply said that it was all business between them and that he was proud of their match while blaming social media for making a story out of nothing. Nothing isn't a word that can be used to describe the relationship that CM Punk and Triple H had. They had a rocky relationship from the start, with some alleging that the game wasn't a fan of CM Punk in his early days. Even then, Punk teamed up with DX in his first pay-per-view match at Survivor Series 2006 and got cheered far more than both Triple H and Shawn Michaels. While there is no basis to claim that the game wasn't happy with this, the two hardly ever shared the same screen. That changed in 2011 during the Summer of Punk and the bizarre text message angle that involved Kevin Nash. The hottest storyline in years turned into a mess after Punk lost the WWE title to Alberto Del Rio and then faced Triple H at Night of Champions the following month and lost. It was obviously a bad decision in hindsight, but Punk was still resentful of the decision a few years later, stating that Triple H intentionally tried to squash his momentum. Even in 2014, when WWE planned for Triple H to face CM Punk at WrestleMania 30, Punk told the game that he needed to wrestle Punk more than Punk needed to wrestle him. They never got on the same page creatively, although Triple H always seemed open to him returning to WWE even a year later. The mentality of what's best for business carried on from Vince McMahon to Triple H, with the latter expressing his regret that they couldn't ever come to the same page creatively. By all means, Punk seemed to have lesser issues with Vince McMahon than Triple H, but you never know how time can change things. Perhaps we will see the two hash out their differences and be on good terms one day.